I'll start off by introducing our series. My name is Jessica Lauretti. I am the managing director of the Anthem Awards. This is the Impact series, our weekly Instagram live, where we invite amazing people from all around the world who are working on all kinds of issues to come on and talk about their projects and their companies and their organizations and their teams and all the things that they are doing across a bunch of different issues to work on impact in their community. So thank you all so much for joining. We are so excited to get started on launching what will be season 2 of the Anthem Awards. We'll be launching June 14th, so just a couple more weeks until we get started on our second season. And in the meantime, we are going to get started here today. We have an amazing guest, Maen Mahfoud, founder and CEO of Replate. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you today? Where are you joining us from?
I'm great, feeling great. End of the week, it's exciting. I am based in San Francisco, California.
How is it out there today?
It's beautiful. It's been, hot couple of days. We've been looking forward to that. It's been pretty windy usually here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it is cold and rainy in New York City today, so you're lucky to be in California. Well, thanks so much for joining us again. Tell us your story. I love to just have people start with their background. Tell us, where you're from, how you got interested in this issue, and what brings you here to this point today.
Yeah, of course. So, where do I start? So, okay, I'm originally from Syria. Grew up in the Middle East, and we love food. And my mom used to always cook us this delicious Syrian food in very big amounts. And she had this rule when we were kids. My brother and I, he was 1 year older. She would not let us eat until we've made our runs to our neighbors who have challenges, like their partner working construction, or they're out of a country, feeling sick, or need food. Middle of the day, super hot. She would say, "Look, I know you're hungry. I know it's very hot outside. You're still gonna go and do your run." So we go on our bikes. We used to hate it. It was so annoying. And my brother and I used to go on these bikes and then, visit our neighbors, check on them, give them the food, and then come back. Now we're allowed to eat. So keep in mind, this is not leftover food or surplus food, right? This is the beginning of the food, right? This is the best of the food. Mm-hmm. So it was really amazing to sort of, live with that. We lived with that until we grew up and, we immigrated to the US about 12 years ago or so. And, keeping that in mind, coming to the Bay Area, I was one of the lucky few who really made it here. And I was very excited. In fact, I was like, yeah, coming to the most advanced country in the world, we're solving all the biggest problems and creating the best apps and tech and all of that. It was shocking, really, because coming here and seeing the level of poverty, or even people experiencing food insecurity, experiencing homelessness. So it was really an eye-opening experience, saying like, okay, so how are we doing that? Right across from Twitter building, you see, people digging in trash cans, looking for a sandwich or for food. So I think that was sort of an inflection point for me. So that took me back to these days with my mom. We're like, okay, why don't we have in a place where we can, deliver cookies in 20 minutes to your house? Why can't we, figure out a solution for people who are experiencing food insecurity with these technologies that is available? So really, this is where the sort of the culmination of these experiences in the past, seeing what's happening firsthand, really made me think of like, okay, how can we do the same thing?
Wow. So it sounds like that was like the initial inspiration or idea you have, is like that trying to solve that food insecurity problem.
Yeah, it came from a food insecurity perspective.
Yeah. So talk about, launching Replate and like, how does it?
Yeah. So, like you said, it's a food insecurity thing. So what I did, the first impulse for me is like, okay, so, I know there's places like dining centers and all of that, buffet style dining, they have so much extra food. So I basically, instead of sitting down and trying to see like, oh, how I'm going to build a business around that. No, that wasn't the case. I actually jumped in my car and, started, delivering some of that food to encampments and some shelters. And And then I realized, like, after doing that, after doing that action, it was so rewarding to see how much impact you can do by yourself without necessarily spending money on your venture or actually buying those meals. These meals exist everywhere. So all you have to do is jump and do something about it. And I think that's how Replate really started. And what Replate is now is think of it as a platform, a B2B platform that connects businesses with surplus food with communities in need. And these businesses really vary, right? From campuses like Netflix and Snap that have food or caterers, major caterers in the country. We work with venues, like the Golden State Warriors, also event spaces, also hospitals, and one of these biggest clients because they have a lot of food. You think of any business that have a surplus of food, and then we connect and match that. We have a matching algorithm in the back end that connected to the best fit nonprofit that can utilize that food. And these nonprofits also vary from shelters to soup kitchens, youth programs, senior centers, citizen assistance programs, really any nonprofit that can take that food. So think about it as, you have the supply of food and you have so much demand for it. How can you optimize that in the best way possible? And the way it works, for an example, let's say you're right at the office right now and you just catered some food. And you're left with, let's say, 5-10 meals that no one grabbed, right? So you can just go in very easily, sign up, request an on-demand pickup, similar to when you order your DoorDash or your Uber. You request that pickup, you say what it is, and then we use one of our food rescuers, is the drivers that we have, to go in. You get an ETA when the driver is coming. They take your food, and then they drop it off at the closest nonprofit that needs that kind of food. That's sort of and as a full cycle, you'll get on your dashboard impact metrics, right? You'll see for example, how many pounds of food you've recovered, how many meals you've created, how much water you saved, and how much CO2 you diverted from the environment. So you see, you can use all these metrics to count towards your sustainability goals, your ESG and SDG goals as a company.
So you literally started by just driving around to buffets and then saying, like, can I take your extra food and bring it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because because the alternative was you either throw it in the trash or you actually compost it. Right. So these are the two elements, right? And then while that all starts from a food insecurity standpoint, not until like probably another year or so from working, is I realized there's that food waste component, which is actually it's very important when it comes to climate change, because when you throw away your food, and it emits methane, CO2 that contribute to climate change. So it's one of the biggest contributors for climate change. And now we had to sort of think about, okay, so this is sort of duality of a solution. There's food insecurity, there's food waste. How do you think of this as a full package sort of problem? And how do you do it strategically where you can also secure funding in each area without necessarily compromising on one or the other?
Right. Do you also, I was thinking about that when you were talking about it too, how it solves that dual issue. Do you also work with like grocery stores when food is like expiring? I know that there's a lot of food waste that occurs in that space as well.
Yeah, we do work with imperfect produce, which is it's not your typical grocery, more like a digital one.
Yeah.
And this in their warehouses, they still have surplus. We do work with farmers markets, big one, the major farmers markets in San Francisco and Bay Area. And we've worked with some locations at Trader Joe's in the past. So yeah, we can take anything from natural products to groceries. But I would say 80% of the food that we currently move is sort of gourmet cooked food.
Like it's already been prepared.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Talk about, you launched in 2016. Tell us about, your growth journey and how you've gone from you to now you have 50 plus employees. Tell us about how you've grown and scaled.
Yeah, we're at around 20 employees right now, full time, and we have some part-time people, and we also have contract drivers, which is probably counting to that. But the journey is basically get the right people around you, It's as simple as that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's easily said than done, but first, start by yourself. You're the one who's creating the website. You're the driver. You are the community manager. You are the salesperson.
Right.
But I think I always tell people, you know, doors are not going to open if you don't knock them, right? So you got to ask people for help. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. And you're going to probably attract certain people who are, you know, care enough and genuinely want to make a difference in this industry that we're in. But at the same time, it's not as easy to find the right person to build a team with, right? And I feel like I was really, I'm very grateful because I feel like I was lucky to at least have one or two or three people in the beginning that really help propel this work, right? You need, you know, you're probably, you know, familiar with this space when you start something, and it's hard to get the right people. But when you do, that's it. You hit the threshold and you're up and running. So I know people don't emphasize that as much, like how important these, you know, first hires are to what you're doing. But I can tell you that this is what makes it and breaks it, typically.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that's like a combination of, you know, folks having a passion for what they're doing or just having the right skill set? Like, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs aren't really sure what skill sets they need, you know, or they think they overestimate how much they can do themselves, or, you know, are not quite sure like what are the, or it's like personality too. It's like a little bit of things put together.
It's not enough, I think, to have passion, and it's not enough to have skills, in my view. Again, this is very subjective views. I think passion is extremely important, because if you're not passionate yourself, how do you expect others to be passionate about what you're doing, right? I definitely agree with that. And then, but I think what's more important than the technicality or the skill is the attitude. I think the skill is important, but as a founder, you usually have a lot of co-founders, right? So you can depend on others to fill in certain gaps. But I feel like more important than skill or technicality is your attitude. Me, as a non-technical founder, I feel like you can always find the skill, you can always learn it. But if you don't have the right attitude and how to be able to ask for help and how to be fair to people around you, I think that's way more important than the skill. I think learning how to, you know, ask for help, be okay with having smarter people around you, and know how to navigate them and be fair to employees and people around you. I think that can take you way longer than knowing a certain skill, or be just passionate.
Not just good advice for entrepreneurs, but good advice, general life advice too. Talk to us about, so you had mentioned a little bit about how, you know, this not only addresses food waste, but also food insecurity, and also plays into an important part of climate change issues. So can you talk about how important do you think it is for companies to be mission driven, and then if you are a mission driven company, to be working towards a really holistic approach and thinking of a variety of different causes, and kind of how the issue that you're tackling, you know, intersects with a lot of other different kinds of issues?
Yeah. I think, look, we're also grateful, being lucky that, you know, the issue of food waste and climate change has been front page now on many occasions, mainly again because, you know, you're seeing population is increasing. You know, we need more, we have more demands now because the population is increasing. However, the production of food is decreasing because of the climate change, right? Droughts, fires, you've been seeing all over the world, floods, pandemics. So we have to, at some point, as a humanity or as companies, as businesses, to start really engaging, not just because it's a cool thing, but actually treating it as a real issue. And you're seeing businesses from Chipotle where they start to score CEOs based on how much they incorporate ESGs in their goals, right? So it's not a cool thing anymore. It's actually an important and fundamental thing for companies.
Right.
So that being said, we work with many companies, and I think from our experience, we've been seeing that, an example, a lot of these businesses that we work with, they have caterers, right? That cater, or dining centers like Sodexo or Bon Appetit or You can have, catering companies. So these businesses will not work with you anymore if you don't have a food recovery arm in your catering business. Because them as a business, they need to be able to, look back at their event or at their employees and say, look, we're not wasting our food. We are reducing our carbon footprint. We are saving water. You're seeing water shortages now in SoCal so bad, right? They're not allowing people to use water outside. So I think it's becoming a requirement for businesses, and businesses have budgets for that. It's called employee engagement, right? So they have if you look at Amazon, for example, each employee or Google have a certain budget towards their engagement in certain causes, right? Whatever they care about. And then the other element is that stakeholders, investors, and funders now, they look for ESG reports, from their businesses. So by companies using solutions like Replate, they are not only working towards, improving their community and improving their environment, right? And towards, counting their carbon, saving water, but also engaging this new talent. If the current, the average churn for employees right now in the Bay Area, for example, is like 6 to 9 months, because each company is poaching employees from another company. There's this fight between Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google. So if these companies are not engaging their employees, they're gonna lose talent. So at every, these talents care about these things. So businesses cannot afford anymore not engaging in solutions and demonstrating, not just by check boxes what they're doing, but really, rolling up their sleeves and really going down at it.
Yeah, wow, amazing. Can you talk about, are you regional to the Bay Area, national? Where are you based? Where does your company operate?
Yeah, we are all over the country, actually. We started in San Francisco Bay Area. Our second biggest market is in New York. And we operate in Chicago, Texas, Ohio, and many other emerging markets in the US. And most recently, we did, we're piloting our SaaS product right now, which is mainly the platform itself without the logistics. We did that at Dubai Expo for 6 months, and it was very successful. So it's, so our goal really is to potentially grow our presence in many of these cities. And expand in many other emerging markets in the US. And our goal, we're very ambitious. We want to really expand Replate to all over the world, because the problem of, again, food waste and food insecurity is not inherent to our region. In fact, it's everywhere. And it's so needed given the current rise of pandemics, climate change, and increase in population.
It's one of those ideas where you're kind of like, you kind of can't believe it didn't always exist.
Right.
How I can't that like everyone has been living their life since the beginning of time where they just like wasted food and didn't figure out a way to connect with people who might need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, look, there are like, the idea is not fully new, right? So the idea of like donating your food or giving your leftovers to someone in need.
Well, sure.
That's yeah.
Right.
Right, exactly, but not at this scale, because like we have the technology now to do it. Why aren't we doing it? And we have the surplus of food around us. There's a new law right now in California called SB 1383, and that basically it's effective this January, actually last January 2022, and that would start penalizing businesses if they don't donate their food.
Wow.
So think about that now.
Yeah.
But the idea is also there's a lot of business will start doing donation dumping, right? So how do you actually have the right infrastructure, the technology to really efficiently do that in the right way? So that's where I feel like Replate is going to be crucial, along with other players in the field as well, to make this happen in the right way.
Yeah, that's so great. You talked a little bit about advice for growing teams. Do you have any advice for social entrepreneurs out there, folks who are interested in starting a mission-driven company, how to start things from the ground up? Any advice?
Yeah, I mentioned a few stuff before, but I always say, like, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who would say, like, okay, well, we don't have the money for that. We don't have the money for this. Like, how is the business plan? Show me your, your business canvas and all that. Look, it's great, to have all this, you know, thinking and strategy. We sometimes end up strategizing way too much. And I'm not about that. I feel like strategy is good, but I mean, strategy can take you only so far. Like, look at the pandemic, look at how things change. So I feel like what's better than strategizing and trying to think how to secure money or do all that stuff, dive in deep quickly, understand, do it yourself. You can't do anything while sitting in your, you know, in your desk at home. Do it, be that person, learn something or two. Maybe you learn it's a bad idea, maybe it's a good idea. I know it's one of these advice you hear all the time, but I think, you know, most of the entrepreneurs have been, you know, talking to, or like, you know, from mentorship capacity or vice versa, it's always that, look, go in, learn something. Don't sit here and strategize and, you know, full day, because you tend, you know, people with great ideas, they sit on that for 3 to 4 years. And then, and you know, after 4 or 5 years, it's already developed. There's so much going on in there. So go ahead and do it. I know it takes risks. You know, it's not an easy thing to do, because you have a job and you have other things and other responsibilities and commitments. So I think the advice I would always say, jump right in, yourself, learn, and then, you know, you'll be surprised when you do it and you care a lot about it, and people will immediately feel that value that you're adding, right? That value is what you care about, not the money, not anything else. Even if your idea doesn't generate any funding, a lot of people look at you, okay, how are you going to make money? Okay, then, you know, your idea is great, but there's no money in it. I think that is a very bad advice. I think a lot of ideas, you know, started with no plans for profitability or anything like that, but they end up very successful because you're creating a value that is needed for a certain population. That's all you need to start with. Make these people like your product. You will find a way to make money. And Replate is a great example of that. And, you know, as a platform, you know, people say, okay, so what are you talking about? People can give you food and they're going to pay you money on top of that. So how does that work? So that's a great example that prove actually you can start with a product that people will love to use, and only later that you start making money or make it sustainable.
Great advice. So for folks out there who want to follow your work, learn more about what you do, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah, they can definitely visit our website. I feel like that's a great place to start, so they can understand Replate and the concept better before following or doing any, you know, any other social. But if you want to go to our website, it's replate.org. And our Instagram is Replate Your Meal. That's a username. But these are the best channels. LinkedIn also, we're active on LinkedIn in case you know, you're more of a business professional type. But yeah, I would say Instagram is the most active one. Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And they're both Replate Your Meal. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks to everyone for joining us today. We will be archiving this session for folks who were unable to join us, and we will be posting it on our website and across our social in the coming days. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We're also so excited. We're going to be announcing tons of new events and content that we're going to be doing for season 2 in the coming weeks, and we'll be launching season 2 June 14th. So stay tuned for more info from the Anthem Awards. And thank you again, and have an amazing afternoon.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.